So you've made movies about Kurt Cobain, you've made movies about the Chicago 10, you've made movies about Robert Evans. These are some pretty edgy characters. And after seeing this movie, I kind of feel like she was very revolutionary and edgy in her own English way. Right. But did you know that going in? And at what point did you just think, oh, this isn't just going to be like a really tame kind of retrospective of a well-respected scientist's life?
I had this reaction when they called me to do this. They're like, hasn't this film been done 100 times, and is there any reason to make this film? And I told them no, I didn't want to get on the phone. Ironically, 7,000 miles away, they called Jane, and Jane said, I have no interest in making a film. It's been done to death. There's nothing there. So Jane and I agreed on one thing, that nobody would ever want to see another film about Jane Goodall. And I was like first in line for the not seeing the film about Jane Goodall. And so when we went to set up the interview with her, she only wanted to give us 3 hours because she just looked at us like we were an E&G crew. You know, she had no interest in participating. And she kept saying, through her people, she kept saying, well, tell him I've been interviewed to death just to use one of the other interviews. It was like, so I think, you know, she hadn't been interviewed to death about Hugo and about her own observations, her own personal stuff. And I sensed from looking at the Orson Welles film and looking at Hugo's footage that there was an opportunity to do something immersive. Because in a way, this film, I think, is a bit of a survey film on the history of nonfiction filmmaking over the course of the last 65 years. It very much opens as a Flaherty film. And then, in a purist sense of Robert Flaherty. And then it morphs into this Ross McAway movie when Hugo arrives, which you're sort of not expecting. And then I think in the third act, towards the end, it starts to get a little more subjective into a more of a contemporary spin. But so aesthetically, we travel all these places. But I knew that back then, the style of filmmaking, which was vogue at the time, was not about creating immersion. By my standards, is much more sort of staid and anachronistic. Jane looks left, Jane looks right. And so that was what excited me. That was the challenge, is can we take this footage that was created for other purposes, appropriate it, and invite the audience to go to Gombe with Jane and to be there. And I think because of the sound, being able to do sound work that we couldn't do 55 years ago on this scale, and to do the color grading. I mean, Hugo's work is amazing, but there was 200 hours at Company 3 doing the color on the film.